Welcome friends, in this video we're going to learn about using common table expressions, and we'll take a look at why this offers some benefit to us. So common table expressions. Alright, so first we're going to code one and then we'll make use of it, and then you'll see more clearly what the purpose is. So I'm going to use AdventureWorks this time, and then we'll type go as usual. At this stage we're going to define the common table expression. Now keep in mind that there's a lot of flexibility in how you can define this thing, okay? So I'm going to show you a way of defining it, and then what you can do with it as an example. So first you go with this keyword here, with. You have to have that as part of the definition, then you give it a name. I'm going to say sales order summary, for example. So you basically start with the with, then you give it a name that you make up, like sales order summary. Again, usually should be expressive of the purpose of what you're going to create next. And then between parentheses, you put a name of columns, okay? So you're going to say, for example, sales order ID, like that. And then total quantity. And notice these fields here that I'm just making up, these names. But obviously, I'm making them up in the fact that we have used the sales order detail quite a few times by now. Remember, we had the sales order ID, and we had another field called order quantity, and we also had another field called line total. Keep that in mind, okay? So for now, I'm putting in the sales order ID, the total quantity, which I'm imagining will represent the total of the order quantity. And then I'm going to say total sales, which I'm imagining represents the total of the line total in the sale orders detail table. And you type as, and then between parentheses, you define the body of the common table expression as follows. And this is useful primarily because it gives you like a temporary result set, and then you can just query that instead of going to your table. And then as soon as you've used it, it just goes away. Imagine you want to have some information available and you don't want to have to repeat the same code 90 times or something like that. So you can create one of these common table expressions and then make use of that instead of going into your table every time or making a temporary table or something like that. So we're going to define our common table expression. I'm going to say select and then sales order ID, like that. And then, because remember, this thing is called sales order summary, I'm going to type sum and then order QTY as total quantity. And then I will type sum line total. So if you look at what I'm doing here, this is nothing new. We're choosing the order ID. We're summing the total order quantity. We're summing the line total. And I'm aliasing along the way, like that. And then from sales, that's sales order detail. And lastly, because remember, we want the sum of the order quantity and the sum of the line total, let's just group it as follows. I'm going to type group by sales order ID. So this kind of query we have seen before. This is nothing new. It's a summary. And basically, remember, you're going to grab the sales order detail table. You're going to group by sales order ID. And once you have it grouped, then you're going to choose out, for example, the sum of the order quantity and the sum of the line total for each individual group of sales order IDs. So remember, grouping is like you've got a big table, split it into logically, conceptually speaking, smaller tables, conceptually speaking now, and then you summarize each smaller table by finding the order quantity total and the line total. And then you do that for the next order ID, then you do that for the next order ID, then you do that for the next order ID. Keep that in mind, conceptually speaking. So this is our CTE right here. And notice I've stuck this thing in here. And to make use of it, take a look. You can do something like this. You can say select from sales order summary. You see that? So now instead of going to the table called sales order detail, you can just directly get your output here by using this. And remember, every time you run this bit here, it's basically a temporary result set, and you can use it as if you were using a table. So as an example, take a look here. I'm going to have to specify the sales order summary. All right, and first I'm just going to choose a field. I'm going to type sales order ID. And we're going to see whether this is enough to get something going here, okay? So highlight that. And if you try to run it by itself, take a look. Hit execute, and it says invalid object name, sales order summary. So that's an important observation, which is over here, you want to highlight all of this so it runs as a unit. Otherwise, the select does not recognize it, you see? So highlight it all. Give it an execution. And take a look. There it is on the bottom. So these are the sales order IDs just by themselves. So that's one stage. And notice something that up here in the definition of the CTE, I've got 3 fields. But when I make use of the sales order summary comment table expression down below in the select, I'm using only one of the fields, and that's okay. You don't have to use all of them, okay? All right, at the next stage here, take a look. Now I want more information, so I can keep things a bit more clean. Take a look. I'm going to type simply total quantity, like that. Put a comma up there. And remember, where am I getting these field names right here? They're coming from the definition, which is up there. You've got sales order ID, and then you've got the total quantity right here, you see? So highlight and run as one unit. And it looks as shown here, total quantity. And sales order ID, good. And now at the last stage, take a look. Let's include the last bit. I'm going to choose the total sales. So remember that these field names that I'm typing here are coming from right here. I'm typing the same names, okay? We need to highlight everything. Observe the results down below. We've got the sales order ID, the total quantity, and the total sales. And now you might ask yourself, can I format here? Well, the total sales doesn't look very pretty. So let's take a look. I'm going to try. I'm going to type format total sales as currency. So I'm going to put a comma and then between single quotes a C as shown here. And let's see. So highlight everything. The temptation is not to highlight everything, as you can see. Hit execute. Okay, and then open up the panel down below. And yes, you can format it. But then as you format it, you've got to alias it. I'm not going to do that. You can do that if you like as an exercise. And lastly, remember that I highlight and I run all of this, correct? So this bit right here is reused very easily. And as you can see, it basically provides summary information. And when I run it, it kind of exists temporarily, and I can query it the way I basically query a table. See that? But it's a summarized version of the table. I like this feature. It's nice. And at the next stage here, just to take a look at it again, more power this time, I'm going to add one more thing. As an example, I would say, where sales order ID has a certain value. Maybe I want to pick out just one of them. I can. So I type where sales order ID equals, and then let's see here, I'm going to say 43659. I know that's an existing sales order. And then highlight everything and give it a go. And then expand the panel down below, and we've summarized only one of them. 26 items, and the total value is that. And again, feel free to alias that if you like. Well, in a certain sense, remember this is a temporary result set, and it centralizes some easily reused code, essentially. If not, then you might have to create something like this, and then you get this bit right here would include all of that detail, and because of that, it might look a little more messy, and I would say even confusing. All right, friends, I'm going to leave it at this.